capitalism, all of the gains in automation, it goes to the owner class. All you have to do is have everyone be an owner, and now suddenly any gain in automation is a gain for everybody. If you grow just one thing, it may not grow as well as if it grows with another thing. A good example of that is called the Three Sisters method of farming.
There is definitely multi-apartment buildings or multi-families that do passive design.
$100 million that they gave to Joe Rogan that they would kind of be out if they breach contract. Is that a bigger number, or is 2 billion a bigger number?
I don't know, Zach.
It's a tough one. I
It's
know,
really hard.
and maybe comparing numbers is not Jeremy's strong suit. Gotta go kill a Jenny.
I still don't think you should kill her. I don't think it's a good idea.
It's a ghost, dude. Welcome back, everybody, to Bread Theory. Joining me tonight, as usual, is Dan Platt of the Albany Green Party. How you doing tonight, Dan?
Hey, Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. It is indeed.
That's all I got. Okay.
That was a mighty effort on that shofar there.
Up.
It is indeed Rosh Hashanah. Now, I know I'm not totally up on my Judaism. Does that start at sundown the previous night, or does it start today?
Last night.
Last night. I thought so.
Holidays are always evening to evening, but it's 2 days.
Gotcha.
And then it's the 2 weeks till Yom Kippur.
Yep, the high holidays.
A time of reflection and thinking about how bad we are and why and beg God to not smite us. Because he's such a nice God. But
atonement's not a terrible concept. Like,
no. In fact, it's what makes us Jews so realistic in our thinking and such, is that, look, God's going to do what he wants, right? That's like, we don't have to explain bad things happening to us through the lens of God being all merciful or loving. Well, you can love, but he also has to be beseeched, and he has to be, we have to pray to him all the time and say everything 3 times, as we did today. So I actually went to temple, which is why I'm in the mood to show off. And they have a chair with a sign about bring the hostages home. But they did forego doing a prayer for the hostages.
and I guess that's progress. I don't know.
But as my progressive ass is just, whenever Israel comes up in the, which is just in most Jewish Jewish prayers, it's just a matter of referring to our people, right? It's not the country, it's not the state. That's the operation of it, that it's making this a state out of what is essentially just our people.
Sure.
And still don't feel like I'm not saying too much. Okay. And just changing it to olam, meaning world, although in the prayers aretz, which is earth, is used as world too.
Mm-hmm.
But in other news, good news, also this week, because of Rosh Hashanah, we had a Jewish Voice for Peace potluck. A little disappointing in that I don't know if everyone's bringing a dish, because it's the kind of potluck where there's just enough food, but only if everyone's got to do their part. Everything gets eaten, but it's like the proportion of salads to heartier things is kind of lacking. Maybe because it's an older crowd, they don't want a lot of pasta or something like that. I made a casserole that actually got completely eaten, so there's no leftovers. That's the disappointing part. But talking to the Evas, two women named Eva, who do we do a expedited evening service, which only 20 minutes, half an hour. And talking to her after, she actually kind of, because I talked to her because I had this well, do I really want to go to the temple for my brother's sake, who's going to be ushering and whatnot. I'm comfortable enough there. In fact, it's just fine, and everyone's nice enough. And again, because this is the temple I was raised in, where Zionism was not like an encompassing force that mattered. I mean, it was like,
I mean, that's good.
I was not. No one in temple was ever pushing. Maybe it was expected, but in fact, if it was, it would like birthright would have been mentioned more. I was
Yeah.
only being told about birthright when I was a teenager. They're like, "Oh, maybe this is something you can do, Dan." I'm like, "Seems like there's a lot of bombings there. I don't know if I want to go. I want to go when it's quieter, or there's an actual peace settlement or something." Even as a teen, I didn't quite understand the politics going on, but that was kind of the point. It's obfuscated. It's complicated on
Yes.
purpose. It's not clear like what Israel is lying about when they say Palestinians are not coming to the table, and so on.
For sure.
So anyway, I was asking people at JVP who do the prayers, do they know of a temple that isn't Zionist? Like, because if you go to the Reform ones, that they're actually more Zionist because they're compensating for not being for being so liberal. Which is interesting because the conservative, get this, so conservative Judaism refers to progressive elements, right? Historically in America, the conservative tendency were the progressives. So I don't know if we completely allow women rabbis, but a woman was leading the whole service today. So
Nice.
and we allow women to have. I mean, we've been doing bat mitzvahs my whole life.
Okay.
And there's been no restrictions on women. It's been completely egalitarian as far as I'm
That's
concerned.
good.
Except that I guess most women don't wear kippahs, but they have like a metal lacy form of a kippah,
Oh, interesting.
or at least it's always been there. Actually, a lacy kippah, like a piece of lace.
Is that just a temple, or is that in everyday life?
Good question. I mean, you can bobby pin it to your head like any
Sure.
kippah, keep it on. But it is a bit more delicate. But I mean, if it's metal, it kind of claws on like a.
Sure.
You can grab your hair. That's what my sister-in-law wears, as well as a few other. But some women actually like wear tallis, full tallis. My
Oh,
sister-in-law
wow.
doesn't, though. I don't think she's gone through a whole bat mitzvah, but she's just a convert.
Sure.
But I saw a pretty woman with a big tallis on, and it's like, don't see that often. But anyway, and they allow kids in the sanctuary, like they made a play area in the back, so the kids can be in the sanctuary with it's kind of a compromise. They're in the sanctuary, but they're not going to be bored and antsy. Not that I was when I was a kid, but I guess I'm a nerd who actually wanted to learn Hebrew, or go along with the adults.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to my anecdote. So she says she has no idea, and she explains that there's a tension in Jewish Voice for Peace because Jewish Voice for Peace is not not meant to. There's intention between doing these religious rituals as part of JVP programming, because JVP is just a cause. It's for Palestinian rights, and inserting an evening service and prayers, it kind of puts off those because there's a number of people at JVP at our potluck that aren't Jewish. I don't think it should put them off, but they're like this. They weren't raised in this, so it's all very like half of us are singing along, the other half are just like, what the hell, weirdos.
Really?
Not so, but they're like blank, they don't know what's going on.
Sure.
And so anyway, she I don't know if she suggested it, but I sort of mentioned there are some roving anarchists in the UK that started their own minion. You gather enough for a minion, which is 12, and then you can do a service. Although in some prayer books there are versions where it's like if you don't have a full minion, you say it this way, because you're always kind of using the plural, or we, a community gathered here.
Sure.
It needs to be 12.
You have to have a quorum, huh?
A quorum, exactly. And of course, Orthodox, it would be 12 men. We don't care. And I have to reread the article about the anarchists who did this because they were just going like home to home, like original Jesus and apostles.
Huh.
And yes, Jesus and the apostles are also a minion. It doesn't.
You know, I never
surprise.
really put that together, but sure.
They weren't the first to use the number 12.
Yeah.
In fact, it was 12 for that reason, that it was a minion.
Yeah. That makes sense now.
Maybe I'm projecting that, but
no, that's probably true.
That's probably it. And most Christians aren't aware of that at all. They just like 12.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's a great number. They don't give a shit. Speaking of Christians and Christian nationalism, last 3 weeks, roller coaster ride around Kirk, which to me, and this is the most aggro thing I'll say about it, is that it was a very interesting birthday present.
To you?
Yeah.
Well,
my birthday is the 12th.
Well, happy belated birthday. I don't think we've been together since your birthday, so happy belated birthday.
Right. What was your reaction? Where were you when?
Where was I when the news went down? I was at work, and my wife texted me. It's like, "Yup, this happened," and then shortly after that, he had in fact passed. And I mean, it seems a bit surreal. You don't, it's one of those things. Everyone has their fantasies. Oh, I really hate that crank. I wish someone would just take him out. But like, you don't really expect people to go and do it, like, especially when it's not directly a political figure. It's like he doesn't hold government office. He's just a
propagandist,
a propagandist, informal wing of Trump's brown shirts, but still
a man of the culture industry. So
yeah, right.
In Sublation podcast, there one, I think it was Studebaker or maybe Chris Barn, it was like, really don't put too much energy into Kirk and the fascist backlash because it's just culture war shit, and that's there. It's spectacle.
Yeah,
and we don't need to give a care about that.
Yeah, I mean, we saw at his funeral recently just how disposable he was as a figure on the right. Like, they used it as for the spectacle of it. Had his wife coming out with the pyrotechnics and whatnot, and then Trump saying, "I hate my enemies," and I want them all dead and to suffer and stuff like that. The exact sort of thing that they were chastising the left for days before.
The fate of all grifters, essentially.
Yeah.
In phone.
Well, yeah, right.
Is to be a complete joke in their death.
And
in a week, no one will care about.
Right, and
not even his wife. I mean, it's his wife is just an actress from the looks of it.
And I don't think she has the riz to keep the
co-propagandist,
the turning point train.
Like she was a trophy wife. She's a prop.
I mean, basically
a sentient prop, but a prop.
Yeah. Oh, especially the way that he would talk about women and women's roles. Yeah, she was never meant to lead anything or do anything or have a career. So
I didn't know she had a name, Erica.
Yeah, right. Now in death, she finally.
And it's Erica with a K.
Is it Erica with a K?
I think so.
I don't know. Okay, I was not aware of that.
But yeah,
like really, I really don't think this thing matters too much. I think that is the correct take. A month from now, we'll be talking about some other bullshit that Trump did, and that's going to take up all the headlines.
Oh, that's what we're doing this week.
Yeah, right. Basically,
Tylenol and autism.
That's right. Oh my god,
another spectacle.
Oh my god, I actually watched the entire press briefing. That was just maddening.
Well, especially if you know the backgrounds of all of the doofuses talking. That that one just nothing but anti-vax, and this guy, complete charlatan. And I listened to while gaming 2-hour breakdown of these twins who are kind of figures in the Maha movement, essentially just grifters. Again, but it's what's maddening is they do use leftist or critical theory perspectives and talking points, but to argue for privatizing healthcare, like the opposite of what you'd usually conclude. But if their audience is going along with it, let's assume, but we shouldn't have to. But let's say they're going along with it. It's like, well, why are they leaping from like, yeah, billionaires and for-profit healthcare is the problem, so we shouldn't have public healthcare.
Right.
We need to defund public healthcare.
Yeah.
Now,
they leap to taxing Europe more, as though that's gonna making it more expensive for European drugs because they have it too easy, and we somehow subsidize them. So the solution is then to make them pay more, which will somehow make us pay less.
So the salesman, these twins, he goes through all of their just what they're doing, and how. So they'll use Bernie Sanders or left to center talking points about healthcare. But they'll also be saying things like exercise and anything that is good for you is actually bad for you. And that's why you need my ultraviolet light mask.
Yeah.
And or they're even, again, but what they're saying day to day doesn't really matter.
No.
I mean, that's sort of the point of the grift, is that just like Kirk and other media figures, nothing they say day to day really matters in the long run. They can just switch it up, and their audience just doesn't care, or isn't following, or doesn't have the attention span. Whatever. I'm not calling people sheeple. Again, we're assuming they're going along with it, but who knows? It's not like they've been pulled. There's no Maha Movement membership list. Only customers who will either get themselves killed or figure out that these people do not care if they die.
Yeah.
Maybe it has to be one of their family members or a friend, and then they'll change their mind. Like, oh, maybe healthcare, modern industrial healthcare isn't bad or all bad, and maybe they'll have a moderate position where, okay, I'm just going to be a regular crunchy hippie, and not a primitivist, because the guy, this surprised me. These freaks were even in their pitches to get people to buy their supplements or something, were even using the primitivist argument, it seems like everything went wrong with industrialized with civilized agriculture. We just shouldn't be eating these kind of grains. But again, they're selling industrial products. But that's it's kind of interesting how when you use the superficial version, or you just use the slogan without any of the content, and in the leftist context, we'll use a slogan, but we'll do it after providing the content. We just don't go slogan to slogan, do we? Though if anyone on the left does, you should be suspicious of them. Maybe that's a red flag.
That's fair. Yeah. People getting too into their slogans. Jeez.
So that's the week's news. Not really.
Yeah, that's the week's news.
But here's something what I'm coming off of. I wanted to share with you before we go into videos, or just in the first half is just talking. Is New York State Green Party is reorganizing.
Okay.
And I just came off of a call for a discussion of that and our proposals, which have kind of been written over a year, which I feel like it's taken too long. I mean, this should have been something that could have taken 6 months, and then the discussions were since July, and then we'd be ready to vote and get work out the details by New Year's. But it seems like it's going to be a 2-year process. I don't know if it's not enough meetings or discussions, but it's we create a clone Lumio. Great thing about Lumio is it's open source. So the guy, our treasurer, our secretary, was like, well, we could keep paying for Lumio because our subscription ran out, but it is open source. So I just created a clone of it. So we have our own version now.
Hey, all right.
And that's the great thing about open software. So here I want to share our proposals and some of the kind of things about it. And these are questions to broad mass organizing, because it's one thing to say we need to do mass organizing and we need a mass party, but there's logistics involved with that, with organizing people, and so some of those things kind of come up. So I'm just going to read the proposals right now. I guess I need to. I wrote out in an email of like how things currently work, so which is totally broken down in the last 2 years or so, which is why the reorg is sort of desperately needed. But it's also been something that people have been mentioning, bringing up. But whether it's local government or even radical activist orgs, you don't do something unless you have to, right? There needs to be a materialist reason for change. And in our case, it's losing ballot status and not being able to even run people properly, including myself. So currently, we have county orgs. We have multi-county organizations. We went back to county organizations. So in theory, each org is formed based on dues-paying members. At least that's the way we've set them up now. You just need a minimum of 3 or 5. And they elect those members, not just the members, but like people who are registered green, elect delegates, because delegates are assigned based on registration, to the state committee. Right? And the state committee has they elect delegates for an executive committee and their own and the officers for the party. And state committee does like the regular business. They have subcommittees, and the executive committee does the business of the party. The delegates have to, on the county level, in the past, would need to petition in order to be elected as delegates or run as delegates. It's like any other type of election. You need to petition registered Greens in your district to run. And so the argument for doing this is like, well, at least we have to go out and talk to those who are registered green so that they know that their organization exists. Otherwise, we're not talking to them. But the engagement doesn't really go beyond that. So the con is also, well, we're only going and talking to them to basically with a short list of people and get their signature. It's not really to engage them beyond that. So I explain all this because proposal 1 is simply because a big problem with getting people on the state level, or just like it's just so onerous to do this petition gathering, to just have the amount of signatures required. But since this was early on, like in the year, the person proposing it kind of says also, it's like, well, we could just drop the petitioning altogether, just nominate and then elect them on the county level. So it's really not changing too much, except dropping the signature requirements, since we're not a ballot status party, even though people can still register green, and we do see that in the state. We do see that in the state rolls that they are keeping track of that. People can still new people have registered green, despite not having the ballot. They know we exist, so they go other, checkbox other, and write green. So you kind of have to know to do that. But there's still people doing that, which is a reason to give them a call if they provide a number. I went through that list last year for the Stein campaign. It was abysmal response rates, however. So, and that the same goes for kind of door knocking. Not that like when I door knocked in Albany when I ran for mayor in 2017, I talked to maybe 10, 15 Greens I'd never seen before. And some were cool. Others were just like a little boring. And some people were old folks who were like, they're anti-vax. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to these people ever again.
Oh, jeez.
Like, I don't like, we shouldn't be in the same party, but it's like, well,
no, they need to be jettisoned.
It makes sense for them to be Greens, or they're Greens like for other causes, they're anti-war and we're the anti-war party, or someone's like a lefty and other reasons. But like the TERFs who are socialists, but they're also Turks. Yeah. Hence the term TERF. Yeah. But they've been ejected from the national and they
Good riddance.
one particular guy self-ejected after we all basically argued with him, and showed how corrupted we were by the trans ideology,
Of course.
which is
Oh,
which
jeez.
is idealist and non-materialist. Like it was the craziest thing. He came at it from like an ML's perspective.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
The guy's a real pill.
Yikes.
Okay. So, but really it's not debate, but like the proposals are about transitioning to a dues-based membership. So one is particularly about, it's just dues, and if we regain ballot status, dues structure continues. It's just a straight dues-based membership, and including a waiver option for those who have too low of an income. But membership is the dues is required to be a member, and members get in order to have voting rights. And something that was brought up is certain mechanisms to stop certain abuses from happening, like subversions, by having, say, you need to be paying dues a minimum amount of time before you can start voting. Otherwise, you could have 20, 50 people become dues, flood the caucus, and start we're suddenly a Dem soap party, or a sock Dem party, which is sort of what happened with the local DSA. Oddly enough, at least the way one person tells it, our current assembly person, her and a bunch of her friends just flooded the local DSA. Like they were all new members at the same time. So like she became a DSA member specifically to get their support. And it was like her versus someone who was a longtime DSA member, and they were running in the same council race. So it was like, clearly it should be the longtime member. But it was a big fight, and it could have split the group apart if it was like trying to bar her and her supporters, who I don't know if are still active. I mean, yeah, anyway, she's my assembly person, and sometimes she's like, she's a sort of a normal progressive Democrat to me. I mean, when I met her, she introduced herself as someone who went to school to be a detective.
Be a detective, eh?
Yeah, to be a cop. So that was an orange flag. I'm like, this is a DSA person?
Yeah. She didn't go on to describe her journey away from policing.
I think I asked her, and I did not internalize her answer. It didn't seem to strike me as being meaningful. And it shows, like, I think you can assume like she's a climber. I mean, the evidence is she's a climber because she won that council race. She was in the council for a year before, just a year before starting to run for assembly. She ran for assembly right away, which is just, climbing. But she won because she had the DSA helping her and a lot of other progressive groups. She got a whole coalition together to pull out the other progressives on the council, because she had the better Palestine position and a bunch of other things.
Sure.
So it's not all bad I'm doing, but
yeah.
But I wouldn't call her a real socialist, but it's also an example of all the DSA have elected 8 state level legislators. This is Kiwanis Savant's, I'm quoting. They've elected 8 legislators, and they still haven't done anything particularly radical. Their successes kind of go into the category of doing things that give activists and other DSA chapters more tools to organize. So, for example, it's cities can opt in to rent control, right? But this allows local chapters to then fight for that. So it's not something that the legislator is doing rent control, but it's allowing activists to fight for something and make it easier. And I think to make it easier to do tenant organizing, or to have an issue to organize tenants around, where before none existed, or at least you're starting from zero. So it's just the long gradualist slog.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's no shortcuts, and the progress they've made is because they're not taking any shortcuts. But I'll argue about this consistently, is that the choice they made after running a few races in New York City, I'm just talking about New York City DSA chapter, but they should be talked about because Madami, is they ran a few races where they were independent or not particularly running as Democrats, and they lost. They didn't lose hard, but they hit the kind of similar 1/3 of the general election vote threshold that Greens do. Like they got up to 30%, and this is just a few races though. So it's like, well, keep trying, geez. But usually you keep trying and you get the same 30%, or you do a little worse, you get 25% or something. Because it's not like it's a different year. So they made a conscious decision and policy to just run Democratic primaries, particularly for the realpolitik reason that it's a smaller election pool. So it's, to me, a big irony that the success of the DSA New York City branch, or the DSA in electing state level Democrats, or members as Democrats, is that they do so by doing the less democratic thing, by targeting elections where there's fewer people voting in them.
Oh, okay. So they can take their larger pool of resources and just lean on the smaller races. Is that what you're saying?
Right. In this case, Democratic
Gotcha.
primaries. But the other side of it is, here in New York, those who win the Democratic primary are then the favorite for the general. And so even when you're running in the general and you can campaign to everybody, there's literally 40% of the electorate has already made up their mind. They're voting for whoever won the Dem primary.
Sure.
So you're kind of capped at a three-way race and getting a third of the vote, but it's a first past the post. You can't just win with a third until it's ranked choice or score vote.
Yeah, unless it's somehow plurality.
Which is what Mandami has done, though he won a plurality regardless. But that's because of the coalition vote sharing with the ranked choice voting and stuff.
Sure.
So it's interesting, and he was invited,
decent strategy. Yeah,
he was allowed in debates. There was no fighting, but again, because it's the Democratic primary. If he was a Green or was a socialist, there wouldn't be any debate with Como. There wouldn't be that media play. So there's all these reasons that, like, if you run as a Dem, you actually do get included in the political process. If you don't,
get that seat at the table.
There's all the obstacles that we're dealing with, and that's why all those streamers, all the left in the media, whatever, they don't even mention the Greens. It's like we're a lost strategy that our strategy has failed. It has no future.
It's kind of a capitalist.
They consistently every day say how much they hate the Democrats. They hate how they participate in the system, two-party system. They hate it. They hate it. They hate it.
Yep, up and down.
And they don't. And they're done with the Dems, or the Dems are cooked. They're dying. And like, there's no future for us there. So it's like, then stop talking about them. Then I guess we should.
It's never been a pivot to any other party, like not even just the Greens, but any other party.
And if party strategy isn't the way, then you need to be discussing what strategies you do want to do with.
Right.
Insurrectionary revolution, Leninism,
prefigurative anarchism, whatever.
Yeah. If that's your bag, fine. Then if they're consistent, I respect it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to find an argument against what we're doing. It's just interesting, and it just hurts my heart a little bit. Like I see a headline, AOC is going to be running for president in 2028, and I'm just like, God, what's that going to look like? You got all of the center left people of all stripes, like they're going to want to file behind that, like, yeah, we're going to have a presidential candidate. But in their heart, they know it's like that's going to be blocked. It's going to it's a lost cause.
Yeah.
They don't control that party, and I'm sorry, but the urban DSA chapters cannot do a national campaign. they're able to like the field game that they have in New York is great. It's a winning like, but it's sort of the discussion in my local DSA was like, we need the infrastructure in order to break with the Dems. And I'm like, well, if the Mandami campaign hasn't like if that's not the threshold for it, we have enough field organization to break with the Dems and start electing city council people on our own terms. And they're still not doing that. I need to ask them when.
Yeah, but right.
And I
When's the time?
suppose my local chapter, which doesn't do electoralism in the first place, they've kind of like, we're not going to deal with it, too much of a headache, especially after Romero, I guess. But even though all their members will still help. Did they endorse her? It's the exception, I guess. But anyway, I'm getting off track. This is all because I just started talking about dues-based membership.
I think dues-based membership is a great thing. That's going to enable you to do a lot more.
Yeah, and DUSA is dues-based. So when they say, like in New York City, like they can afford the field organizing, they can hire staff. Like Mandani,
that's what you need.
He was one of the few hired organizers they had. Right? That's why, like, they're people running for city council, or they're organizers, they're campaign managers for city council. Then they run as assembly people, which Mandami did, and then their assembly people run for something higher. So the other proposals are to include, like, the third one really, dues-based, but with at-large representation. And this clarifies, though it's brought up before, that the last proposal was also you have to be registered green as well. It wasn't included, but the person proposing 2 was like, yeah, I'll include it the next time. I don't think it's necessary. I have a little bit of trepidation, but I brought it up in the meeting discussion that the stumbling block I come to when I'm recruiting people is that they don't want to change their registration. Or getting them to change that is like a big deal. I think people are more comfortable changing their memberships and their dues than they are changing their legal registration, because I think there's something more visible or out there about it.
Sure.
Which is the point for us, is that like it shows some commitment. But there are Republicans who register green to rat fuck us. So it's like, that's, to me, it's not the strongest argument. But there are people that I know are done with the Dems, but they'll register as no party before they'll register as green.
So that doesn't make any sense.
And this is that they know me as a Green Party guy. And they don't tell me, oh, Dan, I registered as green. Like, I'm now ready to be organized by you, or participate. Or at very least, I'm at least a follower, not a supporter, but I'll be a follower. It's sort of hard to get, like, know what the block is, because I'm not going to torture my friends. But, and they'll tell me, I think, in a way that they just, and I think it's an American condition to, like, you want to keep your options open, right? When you are shopping for toothpaste, even if you have, or food, you may have brand loyalty, you may have the things you like, and you may change those tastes. The fact that you can change those tastes without any particular cost or opportunity, it's more of a loss of opportunity cost. People really have to hit some kind of wall where it's like, I don't want to participate in Democratic primaries anymore over Gaza. But as long as the DSA is having the success, or Mandami campaign, that is an argument for every leftist to stay registered as a Democrat. Because, hey, maybe the DSA will have a candidate worth voting for in your neighborhood. So in that way, we are kind of competing with them ideologically. It really sucks because our platforms are the same. And sometimes there are people in there that are full communists. They just see this as the most effective way of building the profile and socialism. And it is getting it in the national conversation. but to me, it's in a way that's toothless, in a way that won't last. That it doesn't have its own base, because that base was still the Democratic primary populace, which, they're not all socialists, but they'll vote for, a majority would vote for a socialist, I guess, once you talk to them. But then that's an argument. It's like, well, let's talk to everybody. But again, it's like, well, we only had enough resources to canvass Democrats. We can't canvass everybody, or prime voters. So it's a real tough question between principles, which may put us in a paralysis of doing nothing because nothing is ever good enough, or doing what is at least get you attention and maybe even some policy. But it's so gradualist. It's like you don't even, to me, you don't even feel it. And this is coming from someone who's paying attention to my local politics and not seeing a lot of action. Like, DSA didn't have any role in our mayoral primary in Albany elections. They're busy, they're busy tenant organizing, and their success is that every Democratic candidate had to pay them a visit and act like they're supportive and show up. Maybe they are supportive, but it's also a matter of politicking, that they will go where the energy is and what makes them look good and gains them actually a base of support. But how much of it is real? Because the real base of power is not in the tenants unions yet. It's with the developers. Because in the end, they're going to get everything they want. Because right now, the tenant organizing that's going forward is the stuff that's in city-owned housing. And by the way, they're getting everything they want. It's a big success.
Good.
The city isn't ignoring them. So I guess I'm flopping around.
No.
But the just to skip ahead, so there's the at-large, because our treasurer is pointing out, proposed by her, that a lot of the new people register, like coming on as members or as volunteers for the party, they're in unaffiliated counties. And I guess that also goes for people becoming dues-paying members, or the sporting members. So the recurring donations and stuff. So she's like, they should be able to be represented. And so there's no opposition to the at-large, but only pointing out that, like, there should be a mechanism where if a county does have enough at-large people, has enough members, minimum amount for a county org, then they need to form one. Like, the representation gets cut off of them if they don't do it, kind of thing. Otherwise, you have like 5 people who are members, they're represented by an at-large, and they're fine with that. But it's like, well, no, there's 5 of you. You should form a group and meet regularly and start doing activism, start doing stuff. Because otherwise, you have a ton of people. And maybe that was something that will happen naturally. I think it's just a concern.
I mean, hopefully, but you really do got to keep that momentum going. Otherwise, people start getting involved in other projects and stuff. And
welcome to my life. Everyone I encounter.
Yeah.
But it's sort of the dualism of if I go to activist spaces and people who do other projects to kind of coalition build, it's all other people who have their own project, and so they're not able to give time or money to Greens or whatever. But certainly by knowing me, it's like we're building a relationship, and we're going to spaces where nobody's really that political, and you're starting from scratch. There's no political education, or barely, or the education school of hard knocks. And I'm concerned right now. I guess I need to start calling people and bothering them, because I didn't commit, but I basically got permission to table at another Black community event this Saturday. but I don't have the help to table. So I need to just start asking people like, can you help me table? Can you help me table? Because doing that, like, calls to action isn't doing it. So the last proposal, which actually caught me off guard, was from our kind of not Leninist, I guess, but he called it the Central Committee proposal, which is that we have the due paying members, but we scrap delegates from counties. That if you're a member, due paying member, anywhere in the state, you are a de facto member of the state committee. So we dissolve the state committee, or at least change its name to Central Committee or Grand Assembly. Something more American, perhaps. And everyone who's a member votes for the executive committee and their delegates to the national, and it's more direct that way. I actually like that a lot. I know that there's some, like, it kind of cuts out county representation. Like it's just assumed that, like, someone from your area should be nominated as one of the delegates who get elected on, or voted on rather. But to me, it also opens up the state work to basically anyone who's a member and wants to do it. Otherwise, in order to do it, you kind of have to go through the process of being elected as a delegate from your county org, which, again, bars anyone from, although there are some people who are on the state committee who didn't come through a county org. So it's almost like, why are we doing it for county orgs? And it also, of course, like the petitioning and other, like, to me, it's a big obstacle to people just stepping up, that they have to go through a process, though no one's ever articulated it. But that's also kind of part of it. If no one's, if people just aren't doing something, but they're not saying why, it could just be the way you do things. So, do you have any thoughts?
Oh,
that was a lot.
That was a lot.
And I've been processing all of this the last week or so.
It seems like some good steps are being taken to really get that funding. I think is the key part for sure. Get that funding source going. That's critical. Keep the momentum going. Also critical. Get rid of some. It sounds like you're getting rid of some, kind of procedures and stuff that no longer suits you anymore. That sounds good too. It sounds like things are chugging along, which is more than I can say for the Minnesota Green Party, because I've tried so many times to get in contact with them, to volunteer with them. Their website's not even up to date, so
it really sucks.
It's disappointing.
Is there no one in Minneapolis you could confront?
I mean, I'm pretty sure I've reached out to Cam Gordon before. He was kind of the last one holding it all together. Once in a while, they'll announce some sort of a meeting, and it'll just happen to be when I'm busy doing something else. But I guess they'll continue on. Hopefully they'll announce some more stuff, and we can finally meet up with some people in person, because going online is very difficult. They just don't seem to have the online presence. Yeah, like. Their website contact information is out of date. Like I said, their Facebook group rarely updated, and no one seems to answer those contacts. Hard to know where else to go to really get in contact with them. I'm not on X anymore. I know they had some presence there, but it's not worth going through all that.
Unless you have specific people who just love being online leftists.
Yeah.
But they're usually the most brain poisoned person as well, handling that stuff.
But I mean, even still, when I would see them post after one of their events, you'd get maybe a dozen people to show up. That's about it.
A dozen's a good start, but all those dozen people need to be doing something.
But it's like a dozen every time, so. I'm not seeing a lot of
whether events, you just mean regular meetings, or are they actions? Or
whether it's a regular meeting, whether, I don't even remember. I'd have to look to see.
I'd be happy with a dozen people showing up to what I've organized.
Okay. Well, maybe my standards are too high, but
No,
also
no,
it's just,
it's good to have it's good to have standards. My standards are just like I just don't have any as far as just for like I just want things to happen and people to show up. And
yeah, and then
when it doesn't
shoot.
happen, I can just say, well, it's summertime, but we had a picnic that was attended last year, and we didn't do one this year. But
But yeah,
I'm not quite at a loss, but I think maybe you'll pick up once we start doing something more unique, like actual campaign and meeting education.
yeah, I'm sure once it gets around to presidential election season again, there'll be some action, some movement. But for now, it seems
I'm not waiting 3 years
allowed
to
to.
like try to
Well,
get
I
people
mean,
active.
me either. I'm definitely gonna do other stuff in the meantime, but I've just
Yeah.
I kind of given up on meeting up with them at this point because I'm not really even sure what they're doing beyond having a meeting once a year.
Oh, it's
Um,
only once a year.
I think so. I could be wrong. Let me look it up quick.
This is Minnesota, like the state level.
Minnesota, yeah.
I see. Well,
I
they should have them more than once a year, because the state SC I think would go for quarterly or just at least twice a year, but that's just in person. I mean, they would have obviously intermediate things. Um, hmm. Yeah, that's not good.
let's
But
see.
even as far as the Minneapolis chapter,
Yeah,
like that should be more regular. I mean, come on,
yeah.
all of the energy in Minneapolis, and with Cam as a council person. Now
Well, not
he's kicked
anymore, but
off, yeah.
yeah.
But
Let's see. Their last posting was for the 5th Congressional District Greens in July. That's the
run for
last event that I
Congress,
see.
just Congress. That's
And
yeah,
then
run for Congress. It's usually a particular election, I suppose, like a particularly hated person, incumbent. Okay, this is depressing.
sorry. Oh yeah, and then before that, July 6th, their annual meeting.
Doing it in the summer.
Yeah, the heat of the summer at that.
It's doing the fall. That's
But
only
I mean,
one
they're
person.
posting maybe once a week. I don't know. It's Facebook. Maybe they just.
Well, on the other hand, this is a bit away, but the National Greens, the committee that does the national meeting, they have decided finally to have an in-person convention again, or an in-person national meeting, and they're going to do it in Chicago, which, like any other socialist political org, they're all doing it in Chicago. The SA's convention, there's this socialist convention that's broader, also in Chicago. So what we're gonna do in Chicago, it's a train hub. It's the more central location. It's geography, baby. So I plan on going because it's the first in-person meeting since 2019. So I'm excited to do that, and I'd invite you to meet me there. Either take part in the national meeting or at least let's hook up, me in person.
That'd be cool. When did you say it was?
It's going to be the end of July next year.
In July next year. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'll be in the thick of my internship, but we'll see.
I know it's not a short train ride for you, but it is less than mine.
Yeah.
I
mean, I don't even mind driving. It's perfect. It's actually cheaper to drive.
Okay.
But
yeah, I know. Well, it's always cheaper to drive, I guess, but unless you factor in certain tolls, but whatever.
Yeah. But what? Yeah, that's definitely possible. We'll see what I can do. You definitely have to remember or remind me of that, though. Otherwise, I'm gonna forget.
Oh, I will. Don't worry, I will.
But that would be cool because it's only 6.5 hours about to Chicago from where I'm at. So that's not too bad.
So you at least need to stay all night. But well, whatever. It's up to you.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be worth it for sure.
I'd be going for like 3 days or something, maybe longer because there's stuff in Chicago I missed when I spent a week there, and a week was too long.
Week was too long. Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, not too long to do everything I wanted, but like after the first, maybe I told you about this. It was a year ago now. I completely wiped myself out after 3 days there, and so I needed a day to rest in order to just pick myself up and do some more lighter activities, which I guess included my biking around actually. But it was tough. I couldn't, I was walking like, too many, like 5-6 miles a day. But it's
Wow.
pavement walking, Or
Yeah,
maybe
that's
it's
tough.
more. It was always more than that. Because again, it's a big city, and it's not that easy to get around actually. Anyway, let's move to videos.
Sure.
So I was
Yeah,
thinking going to Edenicity. Let me actually.
Okay.
You can just do a search for it, Eden High City.
Oh, I see it here in the playlist.
Okay.
I was wrong about Utopia, that one.
Okay, yeah. So I did bookmark that one. I think I started watching it, but I'm kind of going in blind. I've watched a few of these guys' videos, but I really should watch them all because I kind of like the cut of his jib and his tone, and he's he's full anti-capitalist, and he isn't liberal about it.
Nice.
But he comes to things from just the permaculture city planning perspective,
Sure.
or just being a big nerd about it. So he doesn't come at it from political or with any political science, except though a number of his videos sort of mention, fighting the right.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, let's see what this is about.
Began as a utopian exercise, but utopia provokes distrust, rightly so, as we'll see in this episode. Do we really need new cities, shiny new technology, profitable business models, even genius design? While these things are exciting, they do come with some hidden upfront costs, and in many cases promises that simply don't arrive. So how can we avoid the hidden traps of utopia, yet still build a livable future before it's too late? Welcome to Edenicity, best practices for sustainably abundant cities. Let's start with that first question. Do we need new cities? When I launched Edenicity in 2020, I sure thought so. That was the model that I went with for the first 40 episodes. Then in 2021, I was approached to help think through the plan for a whole new city. Now, as the details of that project became clear to me, I had to turn it down. Problem was that like so many new cities in the world, this one was carved out of wilderness. And in permaculture, that's a type 1 error, meaning avoid at all costs. The reason is simple. We live in a world where our sprawling land use, especially agriculture, has wiped out half the living biomass, so we can scarcely afford to bulldoze any more of it. These images here from the construction of the new capital of Indonesia give you a sense of just how much destruction goes on. And no matter how many new trees you plant, we're talking about removing trees that weigh tons and replacing them with saplings that weigh just a couple kilograms at most. This is 1,000 times less biomass going in than what it replaces. And although it may be a temporary setback, it is most definitely a setback for the living biomass of the planet when these projects go in. Even the Charter Cities Institute, which is all about building new cities and has recently allied itself with the Freedom Cities Initiative of the Trump administration, admits that it takes 2 to 3 generations to build a city from scratch. They're thinking about cities such as Hong Kong, Singapore, and Dubai. But as I began to do more and more background research for episodes in seasons 2, 3, and 4, it became clear that cities go through profound renewal in 2 to 3 generations anyway. After all, major cities such as Houston went from compact, walkable streetcar cities to sprawling and car-dependent in less than 2 generations. In more recent times, the classic example is Amsterdam, which went from sprawling and car-dependent in the 1970s to a bicycle paradise today. All of that car infrastructure is completely replaced every 25 years or so, and the entire skyline can change radically in 2 to 3 generations as buildings themselves get old and are replaced. But is there room in cities for the world's growing urban population? Well, yes, because between 50 to 80% of the space in cities is devoted to cars, when you count streets, parking, service infrastructure, as well as green strips and setbacks that people use to keep themselves safe in their homes from cars and their pollution and noise. And public transit takes 90% less space. So yes, there's plenty of room in cities for growing populations. So no, in most cases, we do not need new cities, and we should instead focus on upgrading existing cities to sustainable abundance for everyone. Now, in the original Evenicity podcast, I focused on emerging technology, and that's, of course, very utopian. We talked about Hyperloop, Loop, and more recently, maglev, all of which would be really great to have. But when you really think about it, a lot of these can function as vaporware, meaning a product that is marketed and sold perhaps years before it's supposed to actually come into service, and thereby displaces all possible competitors. There are certainly analysts who look at Hyperloop as a cynical ploy on the part of Musk to sink California's high-speed rail plans and literally pave the way to more demand for automotive transit, which is his primary business. Loop transit, where you get into these little pods that go underground and shuttle you from point to point in cities, is undergoing what I would call a disproof of concept test in Las Vegas right now by another one of Musk's companies, the Boring Company. And the problem there is that rather than having autonomous 8 or 16-person pods, they have Teslas driven by human pilots carrying 3 to 4 passengers very slowly through an underground network that has run into its own underground traffic jams. Not a good look for utopian transportation. So I've rebuilt all the spreadsheets for Edenicity from the ground up for high-speed rail, trams.
For more on the failures of the Las Vegas Hyperloop, the City Nerd channel,
City Nerd channel,
which he's changed to his real name / City Nerd. So,
okay.
He did a site visit of the Las Vegas Loop and did a test run and explored all of it. It's actually been expanded slightly.
How's it?
And it's worse than I ever imagined. And then he did a companion video responding to because when you ever talk about something Musk has done, even if you never say his name, which he didn't, he'll get double the views and comments. So he goes through the comment section a bit, as well as a little more information about how bad the Hyperloop is. One of its stations is just a valet station of a hotel. And there are people who are doing their own tests that they are beating the Hyperloop by walking.
Oh, no.
And
that's awful.
And something that, since its opening, has not, of course, been publicized. They only have about 3 Ubers, they're basically just Ubers, but 3 cabs running at a time. And you pay the fare by card with a tablet. So the driver has to hand you a tablet and you pay with your card, or you hand the card and he has to go through with a tablet and a card, a swipe check before you even start driving. And he only goes 5 miles per hour because any faster would be unsafe, and so on, and it's just
what a con! What a absolute con!
And it's not even like, I think it's a full loop between 2 of the stations, but then any of the other spurs that have been added, they're just one way. There's only one tube, so one car can only be going one direction. So if someone's out, you board one of the other cars because you call them. You have to call them like a fucking Uber, and then be told 5 minutes before they get to where you are. You'll be waiting another 5 minutes for the other car to come up the tube.
That is why don't people look at this and just be like, maybe Musk is just a fraud in all aspects of his life and professional career? How is this not just a glaring red flag for people?
They identify with him in some manner.
Oh, it's just so sad.
So it's like, well, I'm on Team Musk. My ego would be hurt if he were to,
everything that he's done, all of his stuff, his fucking Starlink, which is just space garbage, his I mean, the Tesla that just keeps killing people.
Mm.
Its own owners, in fact. I was just watching a
Yeah.
video before this where they did another one of those tests where they call the Tesla to you. It's supposed to be their bold new feature. They call it to them. It's supposed to stop in front of them, and it runs the two guys over. Like, doesn't skip a beat. Saw another one. He put out a challenge to have someone drive across country, the entire country, using only the autopilot mode or whatever he calls it. The guy ran over some garbage in the road, nearly ran off the road in like the first 60 miles of the experiment.
I think I saw that.
He's a fraud, and people
Yeah.
will not see it. It's
Well,
beyond me.
he's just 3 years away from solving it.
Yeah.
And yet it's also like so like it's also being pitched and prepared as inevitable that we'll just have auto cars. But the thing about any of the another video, I think maybe it was Adam something or another of the channels we love or watch, went into auto cars. I'm using the wrong term, but you know what I mean. That all the renderings and all the planning from the company is pushing this. They don't show pedestrians at all. Like, in fact, their selling point is that the cars never have to stop.
Yeah.
You know,
that's how they get their efficiencies.
Yeah. And that the cars never stop. The cars are always moving. And it's just this assumption that electricity generation, it's like capital's insatiable exploitation of nature includes the assumption and exploitation of the energy grid, that they can always add more. Like the country, some way, or the market will just keep adding electricity capacity because they're customers for more energy, whether it be the electric cars or the data centers.
Yeah, the freaking AI, yeah.
In America, we have 2% growth in electricity demand. But that's not coming from residents or even some businesses. It's data centers. It's
data centers, yeah. I mean, there's entire power plants dedicated to them now.
And that's sick.
It is.
Because it's a sector of the economy that is growing on paper, but it's not employing a lot of people. It's not producing a lot of goods or services. The services are being just latched onto everything we already use or do.
Right.
No one really wants it. It's being forced. It's such a, I guess, through a type of monopoly, but it's not. I guess it's just how the oligarchy works. I mean, or it's just how capital works. It's that all capital institutions are intermeshed. That one sector will be synergistic with others, or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or in the same way that all the grocery stores had to adopt self-checkout lanes, not because of any profitability reason, but only they thought that they were going to be outcompeted by those who did, or by
those who adopted faster. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and in the end, they all lost money on it. I think in the same way, AI is doing the same thing. Every company, Microsoft, Amazon, whatever, everyone at Adobe, they have to include AI tools and everything, because like if they don't, they're going to be losing market share.
Right.
But the consumer has not had any chance to actually have a say in whether they actually want AI products or not. I guess the public spoke in how many people were making AI art. I guess that was like the whole oh yeah, we want AI in everything. Look how popular that was.
I mean, even that is very,
not that it made money,
very confined to like one demographic of like boomer and older generation, like right-wing people who are easily fooled by stuff they see on Facebook. The whole AI art craze. Like almost nobody else really seems to like it.
You can't rule out furry pornographers, okay?
But like,
not that I would know about it.
Of course not. No, not casting aspersions. But yeah, this AI stuff is just a sham. It's just a thing because they seem to be just so bankrupt of new and actually innovative ideas that they're just like, what's a thing we can glom onto and turn a quick profit? Oh, it's AI. Let's do that. Just like they did with the Internet of Things. You know, you're gonna have a freaking TV in your refrigerator, and your toaster is gonna remind you
Yeah,
when the
and the
toast
only
needs to be.
and the only choice we have is, I suppose, to just not partake in anything new. But of course, because of planned obsolescence, like when we eventually have to
Eventually, you're
fix
forced into it.
some things, but we have to do a lot of labor in order to not participate. You know, we have to make our own stuff, or we have to kind of downgrade, or and that's sort of my mindset. You know, accepting that I'll downgrade certain things, but just like thinking about internet. And the material constraints. So I think I may have mentioned earlier in the summer, I was looking to joining a mesh network company that's local. But because of the position of my house and not quite a valley, but almost, a lot of tall trees, they can't service me. And because of Spectrum's monopoly, there's no other like I can't get internet through the cable line.
Oh yeah.
I could get it, and Verizon doesn't cover. Yeah, there's a cartel system, so I can't get Verizon. Couldn't switch, and that's assuming the rate I would pay would be lower. But essentially, my rate is $65, and this is only $10 less because I'm using my own Wi-Fi router. Otherwise, it would be 80. That's weird, but 80 just for internet, and it's the lowest speed internet.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's like, fuck me, fuck off, fuck them. Is that it's like the internet speed, like the amount is 500 megabytes per second. I think I only need 20 max, just for me anyway. But even if it's two people, I think 20, 30 is enough. Don't need 500. Maybe 100. Oh, 100 is enough. But like, there's no lower. I asked about. I called them up and said, like, can I downgrade? I'm like, no, actually, you're at the minimum speed, or amount. And I'm like, because I'm sent every goddamn day, not every day, but like every week, they send a goddamn, like, their advertisement for their $40 a month internet, or even 20 or something, or 50 was was the promotion I got. But that rate was only for like half a year or something. It's stupid. But that rate is only if you get a bundle with the phone and the TV package. So it's $40 internet, but I need to pay $150. So
Nice.
I'm looking at this. They haven't gotten back to me after filling out their online form, but I guess I could call them up. That's the next step. Another local company that's Wi-Fi based. So I'll see how that goes. But like, they have a $50 plan that would work. So if I can just drop my internet bill, even just $20, and they had like a lower cost that was 40 or something, but that might not be the right amount for uploading and stuff. So anyway, that's quite a detour. Let's go back to the video.
Oh yeah. So let's get back to
metros and bikeways, all existing technology that have proven themselves much safer, much less demanding of resources, and much more affordable that the world has many decades of experience with. Another emerging technology is aquaponics, which in most modern installations involves lots of plastic and pumps, which are not terribly durable. And my thinking now is to focus more on technologies that have been around for thousands of years, and that is layered gardens and chimnampas, which are gardens linked by canals. They were pioneered in Mexico under that name and have also appeared in various forms before and since in numerous island societies all over the world. And early on, though I didn't talk much about it, I liked the idea of living machines, which is a plant-based wastewater disposal scheme that again uses a lot of pumps and has not yet proven itself at scale. So instead of that, I would just use classical water treatment techniques and really watch the treated effluent from that and make sure that it goes to irrigating fiber and biofuel crops. So rather than using built wetlands for wastewater processing right there close to where people live. I'm actually okay with having larger wastewater treatment facilities in cities that have anaerobic digesters that produce methane that then power those treatment plants, as they have done for many decades all over the world. And this leaves you with solids that are used again throughout the world to make really good compost. One of the big advantages of central water treatment plants is that they can be used in real time for health monitoring, to watch for diseases such as COVID or flu, or to trace chemical exposures. So again, Edenicity doesn't require substantially new technologies in water treatment. So once again, my thinking has evolved to build with proven technology with a tiny asterisk, and that is that it is wise to maintain public investments in new technology and new research in all of these fields and roll them out in very controlled ways and incrementally as they begin to prove themselves. But there's no need to wait for Hyperloop, Loop, maglev, aquaponics, and living machines before we even begin the project of upgrading our cities for sustainability. What about
So I mean, so far, I'm liking a lot of what he's saying. These seem like pretty practical things. Like, we shouldn't be waiting for these super inventors to come save us from our traffic the final boss, as Musk put it. We got solutions that work pretty well now. We just got to do them. And then, like you said, as innovation happens, and we can still promote innovation more, but we can do it in a more public way. Roll it out then once it proves that it actually is a material benefit. I can't say I find a lot of faults in what he says. Like, I was also enamored with aquaponics for quite some time, and I would say that you don't have to do it the way that he's describing, with so much plastic and pumps and stuff like that. But like what he's talking about with the chinampas, that is also pretty much like aquaponics. You use the fish in the canals, you use the plants in the floating islands that get fertilized by the fish waste.
Yeah,
So,
it's just not in a completely controlled indoor environment.
right. Yeah. It's not this like lab
Wow.
conditions with like grow lights and all this extra infrastructure that needs to be replaced again and again and again. It's
The like the reason for the control conditions is like to stop blights and mold spores, and like there are things that ruin crops all the time.
sure, but like
Which are only countered through like the use of like highfalutin chemical baths.
right. But like you really only get those sorts of like rolling blights if you're using monocrops. So like if you're just doing lettuce, 30 stories of lettuce, well, yeah, one blight's going to wipe you out. But if you're doing like the chinampas, you have a wide diversity of both terrestrial and aquatic crops that you're pulling from. So one blight is not going to ruin you. It might set you back, but you're building in resilience. You're building in extra features that can take the place of something that's not working. So
my only concern is like talking about like, and I think I don't know, when he or others speak of cities, like it seems like they're talking only of cities over 1 million people. Now my Tri-City area is over 1 million people, but it's not one municipality. The governance is very fractured. Only the dreamer technocrats mention like, oh, we should really like consolidate the Tri-City area into one municipality. And they're kind of come off as kooks, but mostly because they're just out of touch, finance pros, in my opinion, who are out of touch and don't know how to actually run things. Just they have money and they can invest doesn't mean they actually know how to do anything. But I'm thinking about my own locality. It's like and this is so at my neighborhood meeting last week, we had a guy from the water, two people from the water department, and they're talking up all of the improvements and how things well are working and the progress they've made the last 12 years on a number of fronts, with our water system, or at least maintaining it. the big project is, in fact, the through DEC, environmental department money, to bring cities. I guess rather than doing a living machine type of facility wasn't on the table. And this is what I could say. I'm expressing a frustration that even though these concepts and these ideas, like I guess the living machine, he's talking about it as it's something that's unproven. And because of that, it wasn't something that my city water department could consider. They had to create an industrial facility that uses chemicals to clean the shit going through the sewers so that it doesn't go into the Hudson River, especially during a overflow event.
Yeah.
But it's a big facility built into the hillside of our creek. Not our creek. It's been a buried creek for a century.
Oh, okay.
But they're building into, and it used to stink up to high heaven right by my elementary school, out of a little flue.
Sure.
But it used to be a daylit creek, but and that's like, well, I kind of want it to be that again.
Yeah.
Compromise is that they have the big industrial facility that's kind of half buried, and then they'll have a demonstration wetland in the topography of the creek.
Sure.
By the road. So it's like a park area and stuff. It's really nice looking, at least it will in the future. But it's not really what I want, since like the kind of ravine that the creek used to run through has been sort of a fallow dumping ground kind of area. And I have memories because like I worked and my dad worked at like making that nice little nature path area for the elementary school. We could watch newts and salamanders and stuff. So, but at the same time, you had this shitty buried creek under it.
Yeah.
And the city needed to do something about it. So there's been all these like advantages, and a lot of their work and focus is about getting the lead pipes out from all of the service lines. So, and
Which
then,
is fair enough. Yeah.
and I guess this is kind of really encouraging, because like the last few lead pipe news was sort of like, oh God, this is a big issue. We need to work on this. But it seems like the city's kind of on it, because he basically said like, if we're increasing the amount, like we're getting better and better at doing the lead replacements, either through some funding stream that they're getting from the state or some other, maybe it's just line items, but they are going to house by property and changing the lines that are lead. And they basically like, we're going up 100, with every year we're doing another like hundreds. And they basically said by 2034, the city will be lead free.
Okay.
At the rate they're going. It's a timeline, it's another decade, or less, but it's almost. But it's like, well, you know what? That's a timeline that like means something, because that's something that prior administrations could like, they wouldn't even make it a promise.
Didn't even want to touch on.
But this is like, no, this is planned out. It's baked in.
That's good. It's a fine cause, yeah.
But how many decades will it be before we can like put out the bonds for like the sustainable facilities, the facilities that don't require the big, the long supply chain of industrial.
Sure.
Well, I live to see it. It's gradualist. I mean, in my neighborhood, it was talked about a few years ago when we came up with our, what's it called? Kind of an eco neighborhood plan, which is basically just kind of a wish list of projects to undertake. But some of them have actually been started. In this case, a pilot geothermal system, which is that you have one big geothermal setup that all of the houses in the neighborhood can connect into.
That's cool.
Because it goes
neighborhood geothermal.
Like, instead of, because no one's yard is big enough to have a geothermal pump.
Yeah.
You do one large one that goes like 600 feet down.
Sure.
It's much bigger, and I think that's what they were saying. So it's like, this is the test case of pilot, but it's
that sounds like a great idea.
Two buildings. It's one large one and one house. So it's like, it's both connected to this, And I guess
Oh
if that
gosh.
they're testing it, and then eventually the whole block, and then like the scheme that this engineer laid out was that like there's this big long like kind of a sewer pipe of the fluid, of the cycle, and it runs under the streets, and then just like the sewers, houses hook up to it, and with their own heat pump, and
Yeah,
everybody's like hooked up to this geothermal line.
I like that. I like that. That's pretty low energy input. Like you're basically just using the constancy of the earth to either heat stuff up when it's below 50 degrees or cool stuff down when it's above. Doesn't take a lot of you're not trucking in anything from outside. Basically, all you got to do is monitor for radon and stuff like that, and you're basically golden.
The pipes may have a shelf life, but it's
Sure, it's probably going to be a lot longer than a
50
lot of
years.
infrastructure. Yeah,
Not certainly like longer than gas furnaces.
yeah, for sure.
And in New York, I've read the parts of the state energy plan, and they actually like want, if not, it's planned to have a requirement that all new buildings be electric, no new gas lines. This is part of the state of New York regulations, and this is one of those things that will make housing so expensive. And it's why don't blue states build enough housing? It's like because we're
It's
actually
the gas lines
requiring
holding us
them
back.
to
Yep, that's
not
got to be it.
be shitholes. That they'll actually be sustainable. That they're like any
Right.
building will be electric, no gas line, meaning no fracked energy needed.
Well, no more slowly poisoning your family with the gas coming into your house.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
There's and they also include in their plans like a scenario. I mean, these are their scenario plannings of allowing for, or like a net zero. They actually planned out like a net zero scenario. Not that the actual plan was suggesting that should be the case, because that would entail like what exactly? I mean, it's what I would want to see. The energy plan was still all of the above, right? That's the bad part. But the good part is that it's like all electric in new buildings is like kind of the standard that's being talked about and planned in. Where am I going with this? They're including like gas backups, as a backup, which significantly lowers like the amount of new electricity needed.
Sure.
But let's see. And the amount of investment is not where it should be. It's like 20 billion when it needs to be 100 billion. And but in New York, where was I going with this? I don't know what funded the geothermal pilot in my neighborhood, but it's being implemented by I think the Community Land Trust. So there you go.
Yeah. Hey, land trust
Uh,
coming through. Very
Right.
nice.
That's who's undertaking these things, and it's because their office and their new building is there. I think it's part of their new construction. They're doing
That's cool.
Apartment building.
You love to see it. Very cool. All right. We've barely even come to the halfway mark, and we only got a half hour left, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna move things along. But so far, overall I like him. I think, yeah.
This is one of the more heady videos, actually. So that's
Okay.
The rest are way more practical. Like, how do you actually do this? Like, it has one like, could a city produce all its own textiles?
Ooh. That'd be fun
Again,
to
like,
get into.
how do you get that local production chain going? And that's
Yeah.
he's like, he's a nerd who's figuring out the map of that anyway.
I like that.
And I
The
want
things
to
I
figure
think
out the
about.
political half of that. Like, how do you
Yeah,
actually
right.
organize it? How do you get people to switch or to fund that transition? The answer seems to be a gradualist, like, let's just get 1,000 different grants for community projects, and eventually it's a base for production lines. But
Sure.
it kind of needs to be planned, and it's not planned. It's not coordinated, because all these nonprofits, these orgs, community land trusts even, they're not in some corporate structure where it can be planned. I think there needs to be a corporate structure of some kind.
That's fair.
a syndicate, perhaps.
Ooh. There's a buzzword for you. All right, let's continue on.
About the business structure of urban upgrades. In the original podcast, I was proudly corporate, and that was a mistake, as we'll see in a moment. But here was the original reasoning. The world's urban population is growing by some 200,000 people a day from now until well after 2050. And when you look at the value that this could create economically, it works out to just astronomical numbers, something like $20 billion worth of real estate value generated per day for the next 30 years. I'd also looked at the competitive position of green developments in a handful of cities in the United States and found that they did very well compared to comparable neighborhoods. In other words, green was gold. Green could actually fetch a premium. Moreover,
I do got to question that graph though. What does green mean? Is this just like where we got some lead projects going on? Is this like a solar mandate? What are they all in the same metric? But
That's definitely what he gears towards.
okay.
I've read I don't know if it was an article or a book that discussed like it was the affordability question of like eco housing and eco villages, where you have like a development company building co-housing or an eco village.
Okay.
And so it's for profit, but it's net zero or it's near net zero. You know, it's pretty good. And
All right.
I can't find the exact like numbers in the tech, but I'm just getting off the sense that there's a question of like, well, is this really affordable?
Sure.
Is intended for like an upper middle class lifestyle. Like is this something that only someone who's upper middle class can afford? Because look at say the pricing for like the Ithaca co-housing eco village. Like that's not the cheapest.
Right.
It's certainly not worker housing, and it's certainly not abundant, to use the word.
Oh God, yes. Maybe we should cover that abundance more closely sometime here.
You want to? I think it's getting covered by enough lefties.
Okay,
to be honest.
That's fair.
If you're curious, I'll find something short, but so much of it is just people at length talking about it at length.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's just because it's just Ezra Klein and well, no, it isn't just him, but
I mean, it's astroturfed organizations.
The right wing of the Democrats
are,
think tanking a response to the populist left with more neoliberalism, because nothing's more populist and free and grassroots than market economics.
Ain't that
and voting with your dollar. And developers are voting with their dollars by building housing in Texas and not New York.
So we gotta just do.
In fact, it was a local Business Insider piece was about a developer announcing that he's done with New York, no more Albany projects. He's got his next projects in Tennessee.
Oh boy, look out Tennessee!
There's already too many comments there, such cheering him on. I guess, of course. Most of the Facebookers are right wing, at least on most of these pages.
Oh,
and I could comment. It would just be lost in the sauce, but I'd comment like the murder rate in Tennessee is 2 to 3 times ours. So like, it's not all good. It's good for your pocket if you're rich, I guess. But
right? Yeah, you can certainly gouge a lot more and profiteer a lot more, but yeah, for the people that are actually having to consume your products,
why don't all you right wingers just move to Tennessee then,
or Florida, and then we could just put a wall around Florida,
and then you can see how an all progressive social economy, like socially speaking, economy is like.
I'll be for that. All right, continuing on with the video.
Green was gold. Green could actually fetch a premium. Moreover, there's many natural efficiencies in designing the way that I've described. A 90% savings in transportation and health care costs, a 77% savings in energy costs, and shared amenities that would give us a high-quality lifestyle and great personal savings. But sadly, as I began to learn more about property development, it became clear that this wasn't a strong enough business case. Typically, when you want to finance a development, you need some combination of equity and debt, usually at least 30% equity, meaning you come up with that money out of your pocket, very unlikely as a developer, or you bring in some combination of private equity and, if you can get it, public investment to make up that equity wedge.
Subsidy.
This reassures the bank that they can fund the project on debt, which is basically a mortgage. The problem is, with a pretty substantial chunk of private equity, there's a really huge pressure towards higher margins, and that moves properties in the direction of premium development, meaning pricey homes and apartments. And if you look throughout the world, the private sector has left gigantic affordability gaps in the housing market just about everywhere, and especially in the United States over the past 40 years or so. Now, that's just the return on equity consideration. The other thing to consider is risk. When we talk about doing rooftop gardens, courtyard orchards, and transit-oriented car-free development, now we're doing something that's really new and, from the bank's perspective, unproven. It's much easier to get a strip mall approved, even though they're dropping like flies as the online economy grows. If you're doing something even a little bit new, it's considered higher risk. I first ran into this 30 years ago when I got turned down for a mortgage because the apartment that I was hoping to buy did not have a parking place. And that just broke their formulas. So there's already an affordability market failure. And on top of that, Edenicity would come in a very unproven, maybe premium, maybe not sector. So making Edenicity corporate and profit-driven seems like a really tough sell. Now, it can be done. If you look at Singapore, for example, the government has developed lots of social housing for 80% of their population. Vienna has no shortage of limited profit and builder co-op construction because the government will guarantee low interest rate loans. So given these realities, where would Edenicity fit in? Well, I think in general, just as a channel, it exists to inform urban planning of the ecological realities that cities are embedded in and how they need to respond to that so they can have a prosperous future. I think it would be really great to see some public or maybe nonprofit revolving funds evolve to de-risk the Edenic parts of new development. These would be the rooftop gardens, the courtyard orchards, the sheltered bikeways, transit-oriented development, and all the rest. But since we're talking about planning and design, this really begs the question, does Edenicity need a great designer? Now, I think it's kind of painfully obvious that utopian visions are autocratic by nature. They begin with frustration with the real world, where people have the thought, well, if I were in charge, here's what it would look like. So this is really an autocratic way to look at the world, and I think people are right to resist it. But can we trust the masses to make good decisions about design? On the face of it, it would seem we don't, because try doing any new development in California, and you run into just a whole mass of NIMBYs. Now, I've gotten to know quite a few people who found themselves in the NIMBY position over specific developments. Some are actually fans of this channel. And what I've seen on the ground as I've gotten to know people from many walks of life is that the process of decision-making, of basic governance, is often structured in such a way that we can get into conflicts, but we often don't understand the trade-offs well enough to work collaboratively to come up with really good design solutions. Now, there are some cities that have done things differently. For example, Salt Lake City, Utah, ran a process called Envision Utah, where they ran a public charrette. This is a big design exercise with real-time data modeling, giving them feedback about budgets and land use as they looked at the projected growth of their city. And of course, everybody at first wanted their detached homes and didn't want to see apartments. But what they found was that if they grew in a sprawling, car-dependent way, that many of their costs would go way up, and that the hillsides would have to be developed, and they would start to lose their really beautiful scenic view. So iteratively, as they plugged in new assumptions, the community came to, if not a perfect consensus, at least a strong enough decision point to where they got behind public transit and a mosaic of higher density development, which kept the development out of the hills, provided for a lot of affordable workforce housing, and public transportation options. And this wasn't just a fluke. The process of public engagement and public involvement in design and decision-making worked here in Honolulu as well. A few years back, bike sharing just exploded on the scene. We went from no bike sharing to suddenly all kinds of protected bike lanes and bike share racks all over town. And what made this a success was that the agency that developed it took the time to meet with residents all along the corridors that were going to be affected and discuss the pros and cons of putting in the infrastructure, and even solicit suggestions from them about a pricing scheme that would work really well. And having seen the pricing scheme in Honolulu versus other cities such as Columbus, I can say that they did a really good job when they launched, getting the pricing that worked for
Thank
people.
you.
They had really rapid.
You say something?
Yeah, I'm thanking Dancer. He's wishing me a happy birthday.
Oh, shoot. Hello, Dancer. How's it going? Thanks for joining.
Adoption. The Beaky Bike system was instantly popular. So rather than having autocratic utopian design, I'll be on the lookout in this channel for ways to be ever more participatory, both in decision-making and in design. All right, my final question is, should we fast-track Edenicity? Now, when I first started this project, it seemed like we really should. And if anything, I have even more
What does that
urgency
mean?
about that today. But the tech bro oligarchs are really fond of saying, go fast and break things. And of course, as an American living through some of the consequences of that, this gives me real pause. There
Yeah.
are, of course, the Doge firings at the FAA, the Weather Service, the Food and Drug Administration, the Centers for Disease Control, all of which are having devastating effects in our society. There's also the USAID cuts, which have already cost an estimated 400,000 lives and are likely to cost another 770,000 lives per year. These are devastating human tragedies. The cruelty is just sickening. Things are being broken, but it's not clear what's being built in their place.
Well,
If
nothing.
anything, this seems to be a strategy to privatize everything in the long run. And as we saw with housing, the free market can have permanent gaps that it fails to fill. In the case of USAID, Elon Musk's cuts are already causing catastrophic surges in preventable deaths. There is no way that global markets will magically step in and replace life-saving systems that have been built over decades, let alone fund them with tens of billions of dollars a year. Now, why is there this zeal to break things just for the sake of breaking them? Well, because it sows chaos. And as we learned in the COVID era, chaos is giga-profitable for the oligarchs. But this isn't entirely a new thing. Even before I was born, and certainly through much of my life, redlined neighborhoods and poor neighborhoods throughout the U.S. were bulldozed for highways and urban renewal. These are so disruptive of communities. I've lived in communities that were affected by this. I'm very hesitant to just throw everything out and start over. Instead, we should keep the best of what we have. We have systems in our society that work extremely well. For example, the FAA, which has made air travel 1,000.
What's up?
Dancer's pointing out the, I've seen the same memes. Grinder crashed
Grinder crash. That was pretty hilarious.
in Arizona, because it always does, where right wingers congregate.
Yeah.
I didn't know the celebration of life for Kirk. His funeral was like how big? How many people are going to this thing?
Oh, they filled the largest stadium in Arizona.
Oh, really?
Yeah. People had to wait outside.
Man, all these fans, they got time to take a Tuesday off and
Right? Presumably fly across the country. And
real working class base there he must have.
well, I mean, like most of the Trump administration was there. So,
Oh,
I mean, got to be a little cynical and assume that that's the real reason that most people showed up. They wanted to see all their favorite maggots in person.
that's right. It's a mix of a Trump rally. So, I mean, it's not like filling that arena takes people from outside of the metro area. The whole point of an arena is that you can fill it with fans from a metro area.
Uh-huh.
Phoenix, was it? I guess it must have been Phoenix.
Was it Phoenix? I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It was still funny. The grinder crashed.
Of course it does.
Must have been all those counter protesters, right? All the secret Antifa that infiltrated that crashed instead. Oh well, let's finish up. We're almost done.
Times safer than car travel over the course of decades of painstaking incremental attention to every process in aviation, from airplane design to pilot training to maintenance to flight operations. This is a very large and complex system that has just been blindsided by the current administration's policies and gouged apart with very little plan for what comes next. So going forward, Edenicity would upgrade the worn-out parts of cities with designs that have proven to work many times better for people and the planet. Rather than do this autocratically, we would use well-tested, well-informed, collaborative processes such as those used by Envision Utah. All right, here's a quick screenshot of what we've been talking about so far. In 2020, Eden City was pretty utopian. We were thinking about building new cities, really enthralled with emerging technology, very much a private equity corporate model. And yes, it was very much an end-to-end design concept. In other words, it was autocratic, which between that and private equity has a go fast and break things ethos built in. Today, Eden City advocates for best practices. And this means upgrading existing cities, because building new cities doesn't save us any time, and we have way more social energy in existing cities. Using proven technology, public investment with perhaps a nonprofit revolving fund and multi-stakeholder co-ops, and participatory design that keeps the good while we build better together. So if you want to learn more about Eden City, there's a few publications which are available in the links below. And as always, thanks so much to the amazing patrons for your support. Take care, stay green, see you next time.
Not bad.
You know what, this his little chart there hits hard with me, because that's actually kind of a similar transition I had in architecture school, which was also 5 years.
Yeah.
So, now in that case, that was 07 to 2012, having that same mind shift. And it's a whole 15 years ago, before he even started. I think it's just what you naturally do once you really do the research, like really
Right.
studying.
It is it's tempting to start from a grand sweeping utopian vision, just a clean slate where we can do all this stuff and we can plan everything out right the first time and all this stuff. But yeah, as you get into it, you're like, well, for one thing, there's a reason that people live in the cities they do. It's because of a number of reasons, but they're not just going to go to some green field out in a cornfield.
It's also
just
where
to
the
be part of
capital. It's where the capital is.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
there's two kind of considerations, and my reasoning for, like, it's not like I want to start fresh, but it's like buying one of those like abandoned towns in the Midwest. So you start fresh to be participatory, because you can't just take an autocratic city or a city that's technocratic or neoliberal and make it. You can make it more. You can push for it to be more participatory, but you have to be gradualist about it to not piss people off, and it's just complicated, and it's a lot of work. And of course, it's also a lot of work to start clean. You need a boatload of cash, capital, and you need that to also reconstruct the city in 2 generations. And I suppose if I have fears, it's that, like, we needed to do this 2 generations ago.
Yeah, but that's always the case. Like,
and will it take 2 generations, meaning like my lifetime, for Albany to be reconstructed enough that, like, okay, this is doing better. And I think it's kind of doing better all the time, even though at the same time, day-to-day conversations are about how shitty everything is and how everything's downhill, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, okay, there's been some problems, some incidents. We had some school buses that were overcrowded because too many students were like using them, I guess, and there weren't like enough. Oh yeah, what happened was, like, one of the bendy buses broke down, so they used a non-bendy bus to on a route that usually a bendy bus handles, and it was overcrowded, and there was a fight, and you had students just not wanting to fucking put up with that, so they just got off the bus, and so they were stranded and had to be driven and picked up before going to school. So it was kind of a disaster with 50 students or something, maybe more.
Sure.
It was 80. And there's my local bus system is also kind of, they do this kind of maybe every few years, a big campaign to get people to pay a fare by having all the banners, like, for the routes, they flash fare required, and very much like trying to have a harder line about, like, not letting people board if they don't have their goddamn. I mean, if they're a student, they should have their goddamn pass, but teenagers, they're not going to have what they fucking need on them. But they also need to build the habit to have it. So yeah, you need those few times to, like, get the lesson to sink in. They need to have their fucking pass on them.
Sure.
And if that means they're stranded at the mall, which is something that I think I observed. You had these teenagers trying to ride the bus for free. I'm like, well, they're students; they should be able to ride for free.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, well, shouldn't they have their school pass? Like, or does that only work during weekdays or something? It's like that sucks. And I guess
Stupid.
maybe that's the point of it. But it's like, wait, they went to the mall expecting they'd get a ride back for free. It's like, and that's the kind of expectation that the bus service system wants to like disabuse people of, because what's happening is it's up. I think it was up to the driver's discretion of who to just let on or not. And
Mhm.
so what happened, and I think I saw this a number of times, when someone wasn't just let on for free, the driver was being obstinate or they were ornery, having a bad day, stressful driving the bus.
Yeah.
The potential rider would kind of throw a fit or get really huffy themselves, and so on. So now I think having that fare required it's universalism. It's like a policy has to be universal if it's going to work. Otherwise, it sets up these false expectations.
Sure.
If you leave things up to people's discretion, and I guess that's sort of the argument against autonomism. Where we leave people up to make rules as they go and their best discretion. I think that works if it's small scale in some limited form, but if it's something like
Sure.
a bus system or governance, it's like there has to be rules that apply to everybody and it's universal. If it's welfare, it has to be universal or else somebody's aggrieved, because you have all these
Yep.
riders like, well, why am I paying for bus fare when you have all these, whether it's subaltern students, whatever, all kinds of people just walking on and just getting waved on, that because the drivers would have a button they just press for like fare overridden. I think I probably read
Crazy.
that paper. Thank you for reminding us.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, I've just started actually using a screen reader, text to speech reader, to put out a permaculture designer's manual on audiobook form, because it just doesn't exist anywhere. So that's one of the projects I've been working on the side. Have it out on my channel. First,
Just having an audiobook version.
just having an audiobook version, and I don't have the time to record and edit down my own voice doing it, so I've used a high quality text to speech.
I have a question for you. Do you find you're able to retain? I mean, I think this is literally studied. Do you feel you're able to retain information via audiobook?
I think so. I think the way that I mean, maybe it's peculiar to me and other people with ADHD, but I feel that I learn best when I am hearing something and my eyes are occupied doing anything else. So I feel that I'm pretty good at that. Maybe there is something to be said for actually seeing the text as it goes by. But I think overall, yeah, I think I retain it fairly well.
What if you were to listen to an audiobook while reading the book?
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. And
Have you
that's the
done
way
that?
I've put it up on my YouTube channel is it shows the screen reader going through word by word
Oh, okay. I see.
and saying the text
And you're
as,
watching it.
and you can watch it too. Yeah. So
I asked because it came up in Facebook, my local Facebook scene, some local gossip, mostly about because sometimes the curriculum in our schools is kind of a black box. It's not well discussed and talked. Like I think sometimes the administrators were due. I think they did sort of a curriculum go through meeting, but apparently the complaint that certain parents are noticing was mostly about that the reading list and that the 8th grade and 9th grade ELA classes, English replacement, they're only doing a book a quarter.
oh
Like
geez.
they're only doing 4 whole books in a year. Now, I don't know how many other excerpts, articles, and other types of readings they're doing in between. I think the curriculum is really like diverse, and I think they hit on a lot of small things rather than trying to like just do books or something. And so books are just one part of a much broader base kind of varied curriculum. I think that's the reality. But I still like there's still a sort of a gross outraged reaction to like we're not having the
one book a
like
quarter.
especially in the fact that like it's observed in freshmen in college, and this is like broad based and polling that like they haven't read a full book, and they have college students and seniors who don't know, still can't like read beyond an 8th grade level, because
Yeah.
what the gossip was that a bunch of and again this is just like reports of like this is what my kids telling us that they're doing, that again that's gossip, that whether it's in elementary school, the teacher is having an AI voice read the book to them,
Mm.
or in even middle and high school, the teacher's reading the book to them.
Yeah.
Like tailoring the teaching to the ADHD.
Right. And I mean, my own situation working in a school for people with ADHD and autism is probably a little bit different than most. I am having my students read The Jungle as part of our exploration of the Gilded Age.
Mhm.
And I've selected a graphic novel version. And also I tend to read most of the book myself out loud to them.
But you don't have them read it out loud or anything.
I try to encourage it, but I mean, part of it is the disability. Like a lot of my students are several grade levels behind,
Sure.
and part of it's just maybe a shyness or non-confidence.
But you got to get, but the practice, so you got to you force or require to
Yeah.
start somewhere. Which and
Sure.
if you can't read with your head down, reading,
Oh
text,
yes,
if you
and
can't do
and
that in front of people, then like good luck with any public speaking
I hear you.
and socializing.
I hear you. So I have
Now
only
again, you're
a
in a
limited time to get the class
context.
going.
You're in a different context, but like I'm
But also, I
still
do give them each
concerned.
at least hard copies of the book where I can watch them following along. I can see that they're actually reading it as I read it too.
Okay.
So yes, they're
Okay.
not reading out loud, but I know they're at least reading.
Okay. Well, then that matches my suggestion of like listening and reading it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was important to get an actual
Because it's
physical
not guaranteed
copy.
to like clearly school curriculums want to take into account that teenagers are not reading whole books in a week or two. I will admit I barely finished any books assigned. But to
Oh,
me,
really?
the value in having a big list or covering 10 books a year instead of 4 is that you're just exposed to more lit and more
Yeah,
different types of writers. You don't need to finish the book, or it's not about completion. It's just about reading the few chapters or as much as you can stand
sure. Yeah.
or have time for.
Just getting a different sense of the different voices, the different ways of putting
Yeah.
together a story, I think is valuable.
I think if that's what the curriculum is going towards, so like they're not covering like only a few full books,
Hmm.
then it's a debate over which books are you really going to go through all of it,
Yeah,
Um,
that's another consideration is, yeah, how much are you actually going to devote to any particular work? I'm pretty sure my students are going to get through this book probably before the semester's over.
but that's 3 months.
A semester is half the school year, so what is
Yeah.
it? 4.5 months, but yeah, we only read it once a week, so
Okay. Well, yeah, and you're doing it in class. Huh?
I'm doing it in class.
Is
reading
that
along
is
with
that is that the whole class for the whole semester is just the jungle?
No. This is only a Friday. It's like our Friday reading time thing that we do.
Oh,
The rest of the time, we're doing other lectures. We just finished a virtual
Mhm.
field trip of like mansions and tenements and stuff from the
Okay.
Gilded Age.
I gotcha.
So
Right,
yeah.
the big unit thing.
So the book is just to add another dimension
Yeah.
to it.
But you're covering the Gilded Age for the whole semester? What kind of-
We're shooting on getting into the progressive era, but I don't know for sure that we'll make it that far.
I see.
Things can be slow in these classes. They're very small classes, so like
I hear you.
it doesn't take that many students to be out for an entire class to be behind.
Mm.
So
to answer the question for allied trades, municipalism and permaculture, are these similar topics? I would say they are. They're certainly like, I think municipalism doesn't have to include permaculture, but I think if you're a municipalist, you're an ecologist, you're an environmentalist, you're an eco-socialist. So like myself.
Absolutely. And
and if you're like that, then permaculture is part of your mindset, mindscape.
Absolutely. I would say that the three ethics of permaculture, the care for the earth, care for people, return the surplus to the service of the first two, are pretty well in line with municipalism. So I think they're definitely complementary.
I try to isolate. Well, I think I've done 15 years of reading and thinking and some activism. And I suppose when I focus on reading and theory, like I have Bookchin's Ecology of Freedom. It's a big, thick book, and I've only started it, and I haven't gone through it. And then there's Bookchin's like sson's book, which is like the permaculture theory book, and I should probably get that and read it.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Because
I don't think I'm even aware of that one.
I think municipalism is like that. This needs to be part of the socialist strategy, like in the conversation.
For sure.
Because I'm reading, I think I flashed it in front of you, the Socialist Register's yearly book of essays, which is, and I just finished the first part, which is all about social strategy. And he kind of summarizes all the different sort of tracks and how their pros and cons and how they intersect and why, kind of just raising questions and discussion. So of course it's not really what I really want out of an essay. I kind of want an argument for something.
Sure.
But it's more like, here's all the things that people have been doing or have done and why it may not, like, it's not going to work or hasn't worked. The question was like, is it even possible to have a left government in our times? Like what?
Yeah.
And in any political project, you need to sort out your strategy. And so many of these parties, even successful ones, like say the DSA, do they have a strategy for government? Like not a strategy for attaining power, for winning office.
Good question.
They've shown that they can elect people. They've got a winning strategy. But do they have a strategy for governing? And I think the argument that Savant points out is that their strategy is lacking. Her strategy is full bore aggro. No, I have the people behind you, and I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to like get along with you progressive Dems or something, or like, the way she talks. And the DSA elected Dems have a strategy of like, let's just see what we can get in amendments. Like they were all Bernie Sanders.
Sure.
Which is just, not encouraging to me.
Not really. The way that the party always crushes those types down.
But there's more of them. But only in these metros.
Doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
I really am enjoying this conversation. I hate to say it though, but we are past our time, so I'm gonna have to leave it at that now. Appreciate all the contributions from people in the chat. Thanks for showing up. Hope to see you on future streams. Dan and I do this every other Tuesday usually, and then I alternate with just more casual video game streams. I'm doing Witcher 3 right now, doing a playthrough of that. That's been fun. But thanks as usual for joining, Dan. I've learned a lot. I have a lot to now digest and think about.
Playing. I don't stream it, but I'm playing Age of Wonders 3, where I'm playing
interesting.
leading a religious goblin revolt against the industrious empire.
You should stream that. That sounds really fun.
Yeah, but I kind of fall flat on my face as well. I have to restart and shit because I don't like it's a new game for me. So I'm
Sure.
and it's like flute and strategy and stuff. So and well, damn it. I guess I should, but it's so not it's so random when I'm doing it. But I guess
Sure.
that's not the point.
Yeah. That's not always about how good you are. It's
Again,
just
I'm
more
listening
about
to
how-
things while I play. I'm not talking while I play. I
Oh,
feel
that
like
can be valuable too.
maybe,
I know
maybe
other
this is an
streams that
ADD
do that.
thing. Maybe I don't consider it an ADD behavior, but like I have trouble gaming and talking.
I often do too. It's definitely a muscle that I've developed over time. But anyway, I'm sorry. I keep on prolonging it. I
Later,
gotta
Allied Trades.
gotta get
Thank you,
going.
Dancer. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Dancer. Thanks, Allied Trades, for your input. Have a good
I
night,
will
y'all.
leave now. Good night.
All right, that wraps up another stream. Thank you all for joining. Probably be on again, shooting for this Sunday. We'll see what happens. If not, it'll be Tuesday. Oh, did you have something to add? Oh, Peanut Gallery. Okay. Amanda's shaking her head no. Yeah, this is a fun one. So if you came in midway, all of my archives are on YouTube. You can go check them out. I need to keep up with categorizing them better, but I have playlists for most leftist topics that you can think of. Certainly all the different stuff that we've covered, which is quite a bit over the years now. So check that out too. I also have audiobooks that I've put up just as a labor of love, including the one that I mentioned earlier, Permaculture Designer's Manual, where I have the first 2 chapters up as an audiobook form because it did not exist anywhere else. So yeah, check out all that stuff. I likely stream to whatever platform you prefer. So if you're not usual to this one that you're finding me on now, just look other places for it. You can also go to, it's right up there in the thread, link link tr.ee/bread_theory. That'll take you to all my links and merchandise and Patreon, all the different stuff. All right, have a good one, y'all. See ya.